I never know if my boobs are like always in the shot or not until like after it's done and over. It is what it is. All right, y'all. Welcome to another episode of The Full Set. I am your hostess with the mostess. My name is Dee Dee Delgado, and I am here. Why does Lowe's want to know my location? I hate the internet. I am here with my esteemed colleague, none other than Ralikh Hayes. Ralikh, how you doing today?
I'm good, a little tired. We're on really like day 3 or so for protests in Baltimore.
Right.
We're a little bit behind the rest of the country. This was my second day out. Just finished.
This is my second day out.
Just finished helping my young people lead an amazing protest of like over 10,000 people. They took a highway.
Y'all niggas is in Baltimore for real? Okay.
Yeah. So they took a highway, particularly so they could go past the jail and say hi to a political prisoner, Free Keith Davis Jr.
Yeah, Free Keith Davis Jr.
He's not free until it's reversed. Keith Davis is free. Also, justice for Tyrone West. Shout out to Zwanda, who I was with earlier, and all the folks in Baltimore who have lost loved ones to police violence and murdering them. Besides that, though, I'm energized. Like,
Are you energized?
You know how I feel post actions. Like, I'm ready to go.
Yo, you be beast. I'm like, is this nigga taking a Monster energy drink? Like, shut up. Like,
the adrenaline, it gets me going. I love the work we do. I love organizing. I love building with people, and direct action is my thing.
Yeah, I figured direct action is your thing. How long have we been knowing each other, really?
I don't know. I can't even tell you when I first met you.
When you first met me?
Probably the Uprising, so maybe 5 years now. Like either right before or right after. The Baltimore Uprising, so we're talking 2015.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I feel old. Do you ever feel old, like, in doing this, definitely. Or do you feel like run down?
You remember Justin?
I do remember Justin. Little curly hair Justin, little light skinned Justin.
Who I would not let lead stuff, like we were in Boston and other things, and he had to follow me.
That nigga had an attitude. He was like a young kid, like on punishment all the time. He was like, no, go over there, Justin. Justin was like,
yeah. I had a proud dad moment. He was leading a lot of stuff in the last few days. And it kind of came full circle for me because he joined us right after the Uprising.
Mm-hmm.
And so like just that full circle moment of being like, we invested in you and you're a dope ass organizer, right? And I'm proud of you, and I can see that, and people trust your leadership in the community, right? Without me saying anything, they just trust you because they've seen you do the work the last 4 years. That made my heart smile.
So what would you say? Okay, this is an interesting point of contention. So you already know we've been doing this is now it's our 5-year anniversary, right? Mm-hmm. And I think about the control that we as community organizers really hate to relinquish because we're like, it's got to be right, there was an action in Boston, and I just had to I don't want to say eat crow, but I had to think about who I was 5 years ago, Mm-hmm. And I want to give a shout out to the youth who led the action in my mind. And I think it's because I have like these points of tension, and I think we all have them. They're contradictions, right? So like I could say this moment, like I ain't like that shit. And then the next moment, I'm like, they motherfucking did that shit. Like, and it could be both at the same time sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I think back onto like maybe even your first, like, what was the climate like in Baltimore when Freddie Gray was murdered? Because that's what I'm calling it. I don't know what you're calling it.
No, he was definitely murdered. Okay. It was similar to what it is now. There's like a slow build and burn in Baltimore. Like we take a bit to catch on, like I was saying earlier. But the feeling in the air is the same to me. The things just haven't completely erupted yet, like it has everywhere else. And that's, I think, because particularly, cops and politicians are trying their hardest to maintain control, right? Like to maintain empire. And so they're trying to avoid any confrontation with protesters and police, because at that point, that's where that tension point happens, and that's where that flashpoint can start, right? And we know that. Personally, I don't care about what like property, burn this shit down, right? Like we've been at this for a while, and as an organizer, like don't get me wrong, we've had some wins, but I'm impatient. right? And if this is the system crumbling and this is the time we have as an organizer, I think my job is to hold space for those. Like, also to answer your earlier question, I think my job in this moment is to hold space for folks in their rage and in their ability to experiment with organizing, right? And then after this moment is when I want to dig deep with them, train and build, right, for the next moment. Because like as a student of movement history, what we're seeing is like these rebellions or these phases of rebellions are coming closer together.
Right. Okay. Right.
And so what I predict is that like even if this one,
oh, you okay, not Nicodemus, come on, what you predict?
Like even if this isn't the moment where like everything happens, we're gonna push far and then we'll push further, right? Because what I'm seeing is, I remember 5 years ago where niggas laughed at me when I said abolition.
They were like, what?
Abolition what? Like they were just like,
right.
You just want to go to jail. Now everybody's like, all right, burn this shit. Like fuck the system, fuck cops, right? And that's a big difference.
I guess my question is like, do you ever float between, because I gave like why I moderate this call at my job today. I was like, I gotta hold space, and then I hold space on the show. But like we got, right? And so on one hand, I'm hearing one person say, but why you gotta loot? Why you gotta riot? And then they use Martin Luther King Jr. obviously to like, and I was like, well, when we say that rioting is the language of the unheard, how is it possible that this community leader was able to hold space in so many different ways? And I think that sometimes I got to check myself and my privilege. I think my ego, can I say that on the air? My ego has lent me to be like, oh, only one way to do this, whatever, because it's already been done. And I'm like, nah, like we could hold space for all the things,
No, I totally agree. I think particularly in growing and doing more direct actions post, Freddie Gray, throwing down with you in Boston and doing that amazing action. That
I have a funny story about that, but it's me being petty. Go ahead.
I mean, still, right? Like, let's be clear. You trusted an out of towner from like of a city that I didn't live in, and our squad to come in and like marshal and like protect you. Ultimately, that's a lot of trust. I don't want to not honor that, right? Because that's important.
But you spoke about earlier about doing the work, and that wasn't the first time I had trusted you. I'm trying to remember the first time. You understand what I'm saying? Like we have built a relationship in that sense that I already know what y'all about. Allegedly, I was talking to Future about this the other day. Allegedly, niggas was in DC, for a certain action during the inauguration. Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's very possible that I saw, without a shadow of a doubt, like what y'all were willing to do and what y'all were willing to put on the line. When it came to Flint, it was very possible that I saw like the same sort of behavior. So of course, when tasked with how the fuck do I lead 45,000 people, and then me, light-skinned Keisha, stay out of the spotlight, like, you know what I'm saying? I had to call all the niggas I know, like that.
And it was fun. It was great. Don't get me wrong, it was stressful at the time, but like
it was super. We hated each other.
Yeah, but time gives perspective, right? Time gives perspective and allows things to move.
Go ahead.
But people gotta ask a question, and I want you to get to the actual question you wanted to ask.
I had a question. Oh, so my question is, because I want to tell the petty story. Let me tell the petty story first, and then I'll ask you a question. So this just happened, whatever. So Bay was in the car, and we was actually talking to Elle, and we was gossiping. It's fine. But also we was like doing a lot of healing and processing. The whole thing was fine. And he was like, yeah, I just feel like, it's weird we didn't know each other like 3 years ago, because I was at this protest. I don't know, did you know about it? He the nigga literally asked me, did I know about it? I was at this
You're like, did I know about a protest?
Of course I know about it. He was like, there's like 45,000 people there. Did you know about it? Like, was you there? I said, was I there? And I had to do Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. I had to dial a friend. I said, this nigga just asked me, was I there? And my friend was like, nigga, she threw the party. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and so
it was your house.
At my house, like, but it's interesting because then I found out, I'm trying not to give too much away. I found out today, technically yesterday, who was involved in last night's shenanigans. And I say shenanigans because my ego lends me to be like, okay, we've seen this before. And I'm saying it to you because you just came from an action. Like, and I miss that adrenaline. So I know what it feels like inherently to be like, I'm with my folks, I'm expressing rage, I'm angry, I'm fucking shit up, right? And I guess also my ego is like, I apologize, you know, because I was like shitting on the little march and I still did it just now with my little shade. But I need to like, when we say it's a multiplicity, and thank you, Ashley, for that word. When we say it's a multiplicity, I want to be like, okay, I'm gonna let y'all niggas lead because at some point someone let me lead, or I just took it anyways, you know? So my question to you is, what advice, if any, do you have for new organizers or people who don't know that they're about to be organizers, or you know, anyone who's got like the steamroll? Like, what do they do with the energy after the protest is over? What advice do you have for them?
So I think my first piece of advice is that if you're planning something, particularly in moments like this, assume it's going to get big, right? Like, I know you think it's just going to be small, but like in moments like this, people are going to want to come. So assume it's going to be big. And reach out to folks, right? Like, even if you don't know them, reach out to folks that you know that do actions in your area. Like, if you don't know, reach out to, like, you can hit someone up in another city. Like, there's BLM chapters, BYP 100 chapters across most of this country, right? Like, they might not be what you're looking for at that moment, but they might know somebody that is, right? Like, there's nothing hurting from asking, no matter your age, right? Like, worst that people can tell you is no, right? And you know, as organizers, power conceives nothing without demand. As a community member, you have the right to demand from us some help. I feel like, at least if you're Black. If you're white, go to Surge. I can't help you.
I don't know what they're supposed to do. Go ahead.
Right, like, I can't help you. That's not my role. I'm not teaching you how to organize. And I just had to make that. I mean, I know it was implied, but you know, sometimes you just got.
No, you gotta be clear, because white people be like, Ralikh said that we could go and ask a Black community organizer to do the work.
I did not. And like, figure out what it is you care about, what's your political alignment, and find out who does that. Because there is somebody. There's always somebody in alignment with you, and particularly of your race. Even if it just takes putting out a Facebook post every day, right? Like, or whatever. They exist. Go through the newspaper, Google like protesters from like in your city when the last time uprisings happened, or like when Freddie Gray and Mike Brown were killed. If you go through the newspapers and videos, you're gonna see organizations, right? You're gonna see people that were there. And even if you don't want to join them, just X is my suggestion. And then as far as tangibility, I think that campaigns are a tension point for me because, like, as an abolitionist, anti-capitalist.
Tell me about the campaigns. Right, come on, like, anti-capitalism.
Most campaigns are very reformist in nature, right? Some of them are, and like, I think we also have to understand the idea of harm reduction as like a short-term strategy while like pushing the system to its edges to collapse, right? Like, so like, we couldn't plan for a pandemic, right? But we can plan for like, we can plan for whenever like the rage boils over, whenever that is, and know that like these moments happen, and that's the moments where we need to just stand in solidarity. Like, I don't think this is the moment to be training niggas, right? Or doing political education. This is the moment where you build trust by like doing things with people and allow them to hold space, right?
Wow, I feel dragged.
I'm sorry.
I feel dragged.
Letter protest before, and they called me yesterday. So like, I got in contact with them like yesterday, maybe 24 hours ago. And you know how I feel about plans, right? But my growing age was that they're young people, so I'm a roll. In my squad, we decided to roll, right? Because we were young people. People allowed us to take space, and like, you have to build trust, right? And I'd rather be in community with them because I know that people are more likely to listen to people that they trust and respect than someone's just like yelling at them. And like, actually, funny story. So I was
tell me the funny story
last night about this protest, and an individual who's much older and elder. I would say he's a community elder. He ain't my elder. Let me be very clear. And you know, some people
I know some of them niggas. I know some of them niggas.
Some people are like, oh, you don't respect old people. And it's like, it's not that I don't respect old people or like their experience. I respect people that I'm in community with, right? Like, your delivery and your relationship to me is what matters, right? Like, if you come off across to me as a condescending asshole every time I talk to you, I don't want to be in community with you, even if you're telling me good shit.
Right.
And like, also understand that in this moment, right? Leadership can shift very rapidly, right? Like y'all had your moment as folks that were part of the last civil rights movement. It is now time for another generation of folks to lead, and that looks very different than what you're used to. It doesn't mean you don't have really good information to share and good advice or pushback or whatever, right? Or can't be really useful, but like delivery is everything, right? But so like this person, the first thing they asked this young protester, this 16-year-old girl, was, "Who trained you?" First thing they said, "Who trained you?" And it was real aggressive. I'm talking like this man has to be at least 60, like full gray. And you're gonna ask a 16-year-old who trained you, and really aggressive. And I'm telling, like, there was a couple black men on the call, 2 black women, well, 3 maybe, I think, because I wasn't looking at all the video stuff, and like that girl. And nobody else besides black women that were with her and me said anything. It's like, yo, no, I don't care how old you are. I don't care what your title is. You're not going to be disrespectful, like, to anybody. Like, respect, garners respect. And like, also, you're not going to shut her down and not allow her the space to grow, because somebody had to let you do some stuff however long it was ago. I don't know about it, because listen, in my 15
Nigga
years
said, I don't know about it.
I'm almost 30, and I ain't never heard about what you did in Baltimore. You can tell me about it, but like, I'll be honest, I don't care.
I guess that's what I had, like, the point of contention. I had to text him and say, you know what, I just want to apologize. I said, I did say that my ego got in the way of communicating. This is me being an adult now, because I don't really talk to niggas like this at all.
Listen, I understand. Growth. Our growth
look at me.
Where's the meme? Like, this is growth. Right, this is growth.
I was like, I apologize that my ego got in the way of me needing to communicate to you. Sorry, I was a little bit shady, lot shady. And I said, and I think it's important what you all are trying to do. And I just hope that there are demands attached to it. So I appreciate you clarifying the difference between campaigns, because when I first came in, a lot of people are like, what campaign do you have? What campaign do you have? And I was like, what is a campaign? And then, people would be like, well, we've been working on that. Like when we shut down Cambridge City Hall and Mary and all them like chained themselves to the front door and we sent niggas eviction notices. The people who had been working on the campaign for 10 years, even though we invited them to, to be a part of it. And a lot of them were working with us. I can't believe I'm telling you this. A lot of them were working with us until it was time, like set time. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's time. Go ahead.
Most people ain't built for direct action. They be scared.
Ooh, baby.
And let's be honest though. They're scared till they do it and then they become addicted.
Right. Or they feel like they get the recognition from it. And then they're like, oh, so that's what happened. It was these Black youth, Emanuela and Mary, who got the recognition. And then all of a sudden, all these old ass white people who are like, we've been working on this campaign in Cambridge since 1972. Like, and I'm like, at the end of the day,
like, that's nice, but did you win?
Right. And at the end of the day, you got to give it up to the Black women who really put that work in and push the envelope, And
if you haven't won, you can't turn away help. That's how I feel, right? Like, even in Baltimore, and you know how I feel about some of the folks here.
You're very polite about it, though. You're better at it than I am.
Now. But there's more than enough work, and my ego says that I haven't. So
wait, you cut out. Your ego said what?
My ego says I haven't won yet, so I can't tell nobody how they're supposed to do things.
All right, brother. I mean, I guess
we haven't won, right? Like until we win, this is all experiments. We're all just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks.
So when you say that, I love how people are chiming in, and I'm just going to read some of the comments. Ashley said that there's space for it all and everything is equally important in the grand plan, and that community requires reciprocal consent. So I appreciate you saying that. It's like the ancestor conversation. Some of these ancestors in my bloodline not useful to me because they hate. They was haters here and they haters there. Like, So I think that is an important point to make. How do you choose community, Ralikh?
So I think it's a willingness to be accountable to each other, right? But also like a beginning of alignment, or if we're not in alignment, a willingness to work. And when I say work, because I'm on the far end of the radical spectrum, I'm not moving backwards.
Right? What you mean you're on the far end?
Like, abolish it all. I'm down with it, right?
Okay.
most people aren't there yet. I'm okay with that, but that means I'm not moving more conservatively because of it, right? Like you can meet me and I'll figure out where you're.
Are you registering niggas to vote?
Not this year in particular, mostly because pandemic. But like, let's be clear, I've run electoral campaigns, right? Like I do policy work day in and day out, and I do direct action. I do it all because it's all necessary. Because let me be very
Thank
clear.
you. That's all I wanted to hear. I was about to fight you. I was about to be like, this nigga say far left and radical, whatever.
No, I mean like they're all tactics, right? That push us towards getting like.
Because I just feel like the niggas who push everyone to vote will be the same people like, don't loot, don't do this or whatever.
No, you can vote.
You could both hands because at the end of the day, voting is a tool. But I was on a call last night from organizers across the world, my nigga. Like, shout out to Dr. Shamel Bell. She really did the thing with Future X Sounds. And while we on the call, the curfew alarm is going off in LA. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that shit is wild to me, you know? And I'm thinking about, you know, shout out to General Jeff, niggas on Skid Row. How you want to get them to vote for what? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing on the ballot that says homeless people have rights. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's nothing, you know, so he was like both and, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you meet niggas where they at, essentially, right?
But that's what Organizing Blacks is about, right? Like the reason we ran.
Tell me about your organization, because it used to be called something else.
Hold on 1 second. My folks are loud in the other room. I'm gonna just
tell Justin I said, shut the hell up.
But like, so you know, we ran electoral campaign, right? Like not as a organization, but all the members participated as individuals, right? Because we understand that we're C3, right? And like that means there's things we can do as an organization, there's things we can't.
Right.
But the idea is that like honestly, campaign organizing, electoral organizing is really useful in northern cities because like people live close to each other, right? You can just go knock on people's doors and people expect it, so they're not as willing to push you away. And it's a good way to get a read of where folks are at. And you build, right? Like I don't believe politicians, like I don't believe we should just have random politicians running for office and support them. We need to build our own niggas, send them in, and be like, yo, you got 2 terms and then you out, and the next person gonna come in.
Right.
Like
they're doing that in Binghamton right now. It's all Black women up there, like boom.
Yeah, but like it works, it's possible, right? But you also have to meet, like the voting niggas have to meet the niggas that don't give a fuck about voting, right? The niggas that don't give a fuck about voting, they want to know like, one, you have to get them to understand that like you can't actually get power until you know how things work, right? Like power is based on the ability to either create or destroy, right? Like if I want to go, you know, cook some fried chicken, I need to know all the ingredients that go into the fried chicken before I cook.
You sure enough do, because I'm not eating your food if you don't know what the fuck you're doing.
You know I cook, so. But like that's my point. Like folks eat my food because they trust that I know what goes in the food, and
right.
Allergies, they ain't gonna come in my house and be like, "What you put in this?" Because they know I know what the allergies are, and I'm gonna work around that, right?
Right.
And so it's the same thing with organizing. You got to learn how the system works deeply before you decide you want to destroy it or even recreate something new, right? Because like, when have we actually governed shit in this country, like as a community?
Never.
And so,
well, there was that one time, Black Wall Street.
But like, you know, shout out to my folks in Tulsa, Dr. Tiffany Crutcher, Justice for Terrence.
Was it like the 70th anniversary or the 80th year anniversary?
100th anniversary last Sunday.
Wow, 100 years.
If y'all want to figure out how y'all can support organizing on Black Wall Street, you can support the Terrence Crutcher Foundation and Tiffany Crutcher. She's a wonderful human being. Okay. Her twin brother was murdered by police on their birthday, or like right by their birthday. So yeah, that's heavy. And they actually are folks I work with, and they did their first direct action on Saturday. It took a highway, right? Like,
right. What was the first action you ever involved yourself in?
It was a rally from the Baltimore Algebra Project for youth jobs and education to increase funding to like schools and like for the youth summer jobs program. And I marched through downtown. So many of us, like I convinced my friends to skip school, you know, to join the protests. We got approved by the school board, low key.
They were like, all right, y'all niggas can do whatever y'all want.
Yeah, pretty much. And then we were down there. The courthouse shut down because there was so many people. It was funny. My cousin was in court that day, and they like the courthouse. But that was my first action. I remember it because like I remember my cousin calling me and saying I could hear you in there. And like,
right,
how are you home, nigga?
right.
And he was like, I really appreciate that. I know that wasn't your intent, but like, I appreciate it. And just seeing like that young people, I was like 12, 13, that young people could organize thousands of their peers.
You were 13 years old at your first action?
Mm-hmm.
That's wild.
And what's crazy is I saw people out here today that been at their first action that I invited them to. This is like how
Right,
many
okay.
of them. And so like,
Right.
again, these full circle moments for me.
Right. So, and it says in 2015, Organizing Black was co-founded by you, Michaela Brown, and Tre. I don't want to say the Tre's last name. Y'all niggas is visionaries. I mean, that's what the bio is saying. What's happening? Like,
I mean, I think we are, right? Like we are practicing the idea of like participatory governance, like both in our collective and like preparing the city. There's a reason, again, there's a reason we run electoral campaigns. So our last campaign, we ran Josh Harris for state delegate.
okay.
Against a lot of our advice, he ran as a Green Party candidate in Baltimore, which is completely blue. But I will say our win number was about 14,000. We canvassed about 20,000 homes and got about 12,000 votes.
Okay.
Right. So like, that's not bad considering like people in Baltimore don't vote anything but blue. Right. And I think I've told you this before. I think elections are like public polls and litmus tests that we don't have to pay for. Right, because like the way people vote on a candidate, especially if you're actually organizing them on a local level, can tell you a lot of things about what they believe in.
Okay.
And it's like you don't got to pay for it as an organization that ain't got that kind of money, right? And we could just, if you do the work and do work, you can figure out. Right.
So,
there's
there's a question. I'm gonna go back to that because I wanna explore that further.
Okay.
Because I have a confession to make. Ashley says, when people have a limited capacity, they're differently abled, disabled, mental health concerns, etc., how can those folks support?
So a lot of things is helpful, right? Research is a really big thing. Cooking for folks, providing space for folks, donating just cash, right? Or like being able to be a person that can like maybe call a city councilman or some other opposition and gather information for us, right? Like we need spies, we need cooks, we need people that can build things, we need people that can fix things, we need people that can just like sit and take notes, watch kids. Like there are a lot of roles, right? It depends on the infrastructure in your area, but like they exist, right? You just have to look.
I got something for you too. A little project I'm working on. We talk about it later. So the thing that I want to admit to you is you had said something earlier in this broadcast. You said that voting, if you allow it to be, is a litmus test and a very good gauge and indicator. And you also said that people need to know all the things, right, about the thing if you want to either dismantle it or actually burn it down to the ground and build something new. So I signed up to go through a Black political education module through a PAC. Am I saying that right? It's like the Political Action Coordinating Party. I don't know what the fuck they stand for. Thank you. So thank you very much. And I'm actually, I signed up and I went on my first call and we learned about like 1865 and the Emancipation Proclamation, like what that meant for niggas, like was they really free? Was also it's a lot to talk about, but it's also like when the 3/5 compromise was presented, like what did that mean? And I think about the times that we're in now, and I want to be certain when I say that, like, at the end of the day, I'm still not going to be out here encouraging niggas to vote on purpose. It's not going to be like my main focus. I certainly want to learn more about the legislative process, not because I believe that's ever going to be my lane, but I want to be informed. And so
no, and I think that's the smart thing, right? Like there is power in knowing how to lobby, pass legislation, right? Like for my day job, and because they're real picky about how you speak about them when you work for them.
You work for a nonprofit?
I do. Don't get me wrong. It's a Black nonprofit. They cool. They obviously don't care. They don't care that I'm out protesting or any of that. And there is some freedom, but like I know you gotta be following, and the last thing I need is my boss to call me and be like, you said something unauthorized.
Listen, I be talking mad shit about my job. I be like, these motherfucker, are you kidding me? Like,
but I actually like them.
Okay, all right.
You know, they're relatively dope. I get a lot of freedom to move resources to people that need it.
Right.
Right. So I think that's useful.
I think that's the only reason why I actually stay at my job, because I'm like, maybe I could be more useful in this capacity, you know?
I mean, it also gives me experience to like test out, honestly, organizing theories that are based off of conditions I've learned in Baltimore and things I've learned in Baltimore, and yes, other places, but it allows me to then practice them with people in other cities that I'm not a part of and sustain it. Right. So like my folks in Tulsa, I love them. I've been with them for like a year, and like watching their growth and being able to sustain that. It's also a validation of like the experiment of like our theory of organizing, that's organizing Black. Right. And like how we think, you know, you develop people and power. And so that goes back to like they're at a position now where like all the city councilors will, and the mayor is still ignoring them for some demands right now, but like the vast majority will answer their calls, and they can push some laws through, right? Like, and most people, not us, but like the average individual has never written a law for their city or state in their life.
Right. Of course.
I can't even count anymore how many laws I've like helped write and stuff in policy. And that's ridiculous to think about. Like we
so it's like you're a lawyer.
No. Organizer. I direct the lawyer.
Okay. All right.
Like they write, but like I've had deep influence over like, that doesn't sound right. That's not strong enough, right? Like pushing. And it's not the end all be all, but you learn a lot.
What do you think coalition building looks like? You had said earlier, I'm not sure if it was off camera or not, but that you wanted to talk about like now is not the time to politicize niggas. Like you just gotta let niggas just. I want to be like niggas, like put your power somewhere.
So okay, let me put it like this. I don't think now's the time for like a group like me to do that on the ground. Okay. I think that in this particular COVID moment, there is a space for like online politicization that normally wouldn't exist in these kind of moments. But like that still requires at the end of that to say like, hey, where you're located and can I connect you to something else so you can learn a little bit more, or like I would think to specify it to their location so you could do a bit of a deeper dive, because otherwise you're kind of doing a disservice, because like, you know, most political education courses are the basis of the basics, which granted most people don't know.
Right.
But if you're
saying we're pretty much, are you saying, am I putting words in your mouth, that we're preaching to the choir when we tell Black folks about political education because they understand it on some baseline level?
I think so. And I also think like, unless there's time to do the deep study about like the power dynamics of these errors, like the things that like actually make organizers. Because like how many history professors know movement history? They're not organizers though. Right? Like that doesn't make, there's like organizing is honestly an embodiment, right? It's a way you live your life, the way you think, the way you act in situations, the way you deal with pressure and stress. Right? Everybody's not built to be an organizer. And I wish people would stop.
Can you say that again, please?
Everybody ain't built to be an organizer, and I need people to stop thinking that they are. It's okay. You can be a healer. You can be a comms person, right? Like that is organizing, but it is not the same as like base building organizing, you know, or like community organizing in the sense that you're building.
Do you think that niggas should take a role in everything? Like, I'm just saying what I think. I don't know if you agree with me. Like me personally, like when we did, you know, me, Chanel, April, we used to be the Three Stooges. We was the powerhouse. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I think about like all the times we just like rapid response. Come on, this fundraiser, it needs to be knocked out the park. Boom, boom, boom. Right. And then we all went our separate ways, and we're still doing great work, but we've all been cross-trained. Like, so I know shit to do that they do, you know?
So this is Block's philosophy, right? Like we believe. Are they leaving? No. Oh, I'm sorry. So like we believe that like folks will typically find so I think there's two things, right? There's the things that like sometimes you're naturally skilled at because like just the way genetics and stuff work, or you're predisposed to be. And then there's the skills that like you love to do and you want to become great at. Right. And so I think that figuring out what's your deepest yes around those things in organizing is really important, because it is work, but it shouldn't always feel like work.
Okay.
Right. Like
I agree with you.
I don't wake up each day and be like, I don't want to be an organizer today. Like I wake up each day and I am an organizer and I decide and I do my job, but like it honestly most of the times doesn't feel like work.
Right.
This time, like the things that feel like work are like the staff meetings, right? And like the internal.
Right.
But when I'm in the
These
community,
Zoom fucking calls.
yeah, like when I'm in the community, that doesn't feel like work. When I'm traveling, supporting cities, that's not work.
Right.
Like,
Y'all
that's my
niggas
life.
have got on flights. I'm like, hey.
You know, I will hop on a flight in a heartbeat.
And I have always appreciated that about y'all. And also y'all don't bring y'all own agenda. So the other thing I want to talk to y'all about is because I feel like, especially during this time, I just want niggas to be safe. And the reason why I say niggas to be safe is because I have made mistakes as an organizer. And I think that that's why maybe I'm full of the critique, is because I knew that like nobody was going to get to me. I had to experience it. And then I was like, oh, okay, it makes sense what the old head was saying, you know? What would you say are the 3 to 5 major components that your protest or rally should have if you're inviting Black folks to attend?
I guess the question is like, one, you should figure out what your goal is, right? Like I always assess that.
That's why I was mad. I felt like there was no goals, but I'll get over it.
Are you risking arrest or not? That's the second thing when Black folks are in the room, right? The third thing is like, do you have enough people for crowd control?
Why is crowd control important? And as someone who I'm like, Ralikh better be on his motherfucking walkie-talkie. I need to know what security looks like right now. Like, I've always been able to count on you, like, for that. So what does marshaling and security mean to a crowd full of people?
Right. So, like, we know white supremacists exist. We know that they like to go to protests and start shit, kill people, stab them, you name it, right? Like, you're responsible for that, both legally and, like, emotionally.
Right.
Right. And, like, nobody wants to go through the idea that they, like, did something that got someone hurt. Right. Or killed. Right. And so it's really important to be able to have folks that you trust, like that are going to back you up and like that are trained in pretty much is like using their bodies to take up space, right? Marshalling is like the peaceful side of like body direct action. Right. Like where you just
because the marshals are important because I was a marshal one time and I was like, this is not for me because I'll literally fight somebody. I'm like, stay over here, niggas. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but you are able to use your voice. You don't even have to use your body. I've noticed to guide the crowd. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and we're going this way and everyone's communicating. Y'all got y'all little vests on and shit. But there's an element of safety there because y'all are positioned in a way that's like, we are guiding the crowd. Like, you know what I'm saying?
And yeah, the crowd's not going to run into something that we haven't already seen and accounted for, right? Like, so like Boston, the cops started setting up barricades. We was like, bet, we see you. We going to go this way. Or like when the truck
shifted 45,000 people.
Or when the truck was in the middle of the protest, and we was like, all right, how we about to get this out of here?
Right.
Right. I was like, all right, I got you. Give me 5 minutes.
Right. And so y'all develop strategies on the ground, you know what I'm saying? And I appreciate that you said comms is a big thing because even though I was able to contact all of y'all and be like, y'all niggas need to come here because we need help. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, 27 different organizers from across the country came. I realized that my role, even though I was action coordinator, my role wasn't to be at the forefront. Like that was y'all shit. So you had the medic team out there. Shout out to Siobhan for BLM New Jersey. Shout out to
the homie.
Right. Shout out to y'all organizing Black. I just wanted you to keep Black Bloc because it sounded so fucking devious and official.
But then like the political time shifted and they got, folks started labeling them as terrorist organizations. So
yeah. Like I'm like, yeah, I know. So
like me and the FBI are friends. So
Right. No, that's valid. And so I think about too, like, okay, then what happens now that we know that those are the tenets? I would say communications, security. I worry about bail support because I feel like not a lot of niggas know about it. And I'm saying it as a nigga who didn't find out about it until 2017. We always raised bail funds after the protest. And the Fight Supremacy March is actually the first time we did raise bail prior or set aside funds for it. And then we work closely with National Lawyers Guild and Mass Bail Fund. And I just worry about I just worry about it because I know the implications. I love that you said that somebody could get seriously hurt. if we're leaving Black folk, we're getting awarded from the city of Boston for like our work. I was like, I can't accept this motherfucking award. You still got 36 niggas in jail for doing the same thing I just did. Like, we're just,
Mhm.
So what do you think of aftercare? And then like, how can you move that energy into something tangible?
So I think there's also a thing that you have to think about when you're planning actions is like, who's your after action team, right? They're not jail support. They're not comms. They're the people that like step up into leadership while the folks that did that action are arrested.
Nigga, you making me
Right? And it can be
nervous
like
with your
2 or 3
pacing.
people,
Like,
but they have to do they were loud in the other room.
no, I know, but I think like when you go through certain parts of the house, we lose it. So you
Oh,
said who's your aftercare?
yeah,
What'd you
like your
say?
after support team, right? Like these are the people that, who's sending out the thank you message? Who's posting
Right.
the thank you thing on the social media, right? Who's making like this is after our people are home, right? Because jail support, I do think there's a portion of jail support that like includes what do people need in their immediate release, right? Like their immediate release, and then there's like what do you need going forward.
Right. Okay.
And I think those are two different things, right? Because they might need like long-term legal support, but then they
Right.
also need like they need long-term emotional and like sometimes physical support, right? And like there's some folks that need to also like whoever leadership is should really assess that going forward. If you're not a direct action group, like it still should be assessed, but if you're not a group that like regularly practices direct action, y'all need to debrief, y'all need to check in, how are you feeling,
Right.
has your body healed, right? Because also direct action is hard on the body,
Oh, it's
like
so hard on the body. I
even
had
if it's
some
just
direct
leading a
action in
march.
my bedroom this weekend. It was so hard on the body. You understand what I'm saying? Like, sheesh.
I'm sick of you.
I hate it here.
But
Niggas
like,
was hitting me up asking me, bitch, are you safe? I saw you came to Boston. I was like, I came to Boston and get some dick. Like, what? Why are you bothering me? I want to talk to you about organizing and training to be an organizer. You said it was important to learn. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I haven't learned shit.
So I think that we should strive. Like a good organizer is always a student teacher, and I say student teacher first because like you're still learning new shit. Like police are coming up with new tactics.
Right.
States coming up with new tactics. You don't stop learning. You're also learning people, but you also have a responsibility to share the things that you've gained competency in. I'm not going to say mastery because like a lot of people don't actually attain mastery,
Okay.
but like competency. And there are folks though that in movement that have attained mastery of certain aspects of like organizing.
Okay.
And like why it's important, I think, to be in community so you can figure out who those folks are, particularly out like yes within your city, but I think every organizer should be also exposed to like national movement because it gives you perspective, right? It lets you also know that you're like once you start, your own city's like organizing scene or whatever, like you still feel kind of siloed because it's like, oh, it's just us.
Right.
Just the same 20, 30 folks, whoever, right? Once you get national, you realize like, oh, we deep. Like we act fuck. Right. Like, so like let's talk about the 140 cities that's going on right now, right? The fact is that like you and me could literally name people in all of those 140 cities, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And we know they're on the front lines. Right. Like that is comforting in a moment of where everything else is uncertain.
Right. And like I also would agree with that too, because not that I forget that I have niggas numbers, but I just don't use them because I feel like if we're not in community in certain ways, I don't ever want to abuse the fact that I had your number from 2015 if you still kept it. And so I reached out to an organizer from Southerners on New Ground, and I was like, I said, who's checking for what in Minneapolis? Because I don't like going by the accounts of white people, like, And she was like, oh, hey, sis. And I was like, you knew who this was? Like, same, like, And so I appreciated like just her connecting me to folks or whatever. But why you always send me the training packages and applications for certain onboarding for national trainings late?
Because I think you know the people, and I think that being in deeper
No,
community.
I don't know the people.
I think you do though. Like
No, I don't.
Chanel, you know me.
I don't know the people.
You know me, don't you?
I don't know the people.
I'm one of those people that's a part of that thing that we're talking about. I mean, I'll say the name. Shout out to Bold, shout out Bold Organizing.
Y'all, I literally be like, one day they're going to accept me into their cohort. One day.
Well, so like they've shifted multiple times in like how they accept members. Like I think there was like you had to be attached to a base building organization. But like you should just I should connect you with like one of their organizers now that they have staffed organizers. Like they've grown, right? And like maybe talk to one, like arrange a conversation where you could talk to them, because I do think that is, for me, I won't say it's my political home because like organizing Black is, but it's like it feels like a home, right? Like it feels like it feels like going into your cousin's house and like just being able to chop it up over here and play spades and like push each other, but still know that like you love each other even through the disagreements.
Right. Okay.
And so that's why I think that's important, because like, well, I'm not going to say like I politically agree or even know or like everybody in the thing, right? But there's a certain level of trust built because of like, there's a baseline I know of where your political alignment is, because you got to accept it and like niggas vet you to get in.
So I guess my question, then the follow-up question is, you know, when you say you don't really like people, whatever, like I know it goes deeper than that, whatever, but how do you deal with conflict within your own team? And then also as someone who is considered a national organizer?
So I think conflict also, first, the place it occurs matters a lot, right? Like public disrespect requires like public mending, because like we have
these niggas be apologizing in my text messages and inbox, but never go public when the disrespect was public.
I think we have to we hold elected officials to a really high standard about how they act in public. And I think we put ourselves to similar standards. Not to say that you can't like fuck, suck, whatever it is, do drugs. I don't care about that. What I'm talking about is the standards.
That escalated like, very quickly.
Right. Like I don't. What I do talk about is the standards of like how you hold relationships and hold yourself accountable. Like we have to model what we want to see in both our people that look up to us. Right. Like being an organizer is a lot of fucking power. And you abuse that when you don't like intentionally model the world that we're trying to create.
Okay.
Take direction from you, even if you don't realize it. Right? Like think about it like this.
If we were in the
middle of action somewhere, I don't care where in the country, and I decided to like start burning some shit and we all hype, what do you think is gonna happen?
I don't really know the answer to the question, Ralikh.
I think people will start burning shit.
I was gonna say it, but I didn't want to be wrong on the internet.
I think people are gonna start burning shit because I decided to start burning shit, right? And so like and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but there's also a time and place for some things. And then you also have to think about the perception of the thing, because if you're beholden and accountable to like your organization and movement, you got to be here for the long term and think about both how you're perceived by your organization, who you're accountable to, and the community right? Like, because people hold their leaders to higher standards than they hold themselves. And I'm not saying you should try to live up to it, but you have to recognize that you have power, and you do have there are little kids in Baltimore who like come up to me in my neighborhood. I saw you on the news. I saw you at the protest. Like, there's a responsibility there. About,
if you say so.
I think so, right? Like, also, if you want people to trust you, right? Like, I want to trust someone that I know when they fuck up, they just be like, listen, I fucked up.
Right. Okay.
Because I'm not about the cancel thing. Or it also depends on what.
I'm just asking. I mean, are you like this with everyone? Because I feel like are you like this with all Black people? I'm asking.
I give grace until you've like proven that either you can't be trusted or you can't keep people safe, typically.
Okay.
Right? Like people that work with cops and feed information to cops, you gotta go. People that get people hurt and are not willing to change and learn from that, you gotta go. Like if you're willing to learn, though, I think that we can grow together. Even if I decide that like I'm not the person or my organs in the space for you, I'll find resources to connect you to. Because sometimes personalities just clash, and that's a thing. And I think we have to be okay.
I'm glad that you and I have been clashing since 2015, my nigga.
I mean, there's some people, I just like their politics, or they say their politics are in alignment, and then their actions.
Right.
And I just believe that if I'm gonna say some shit, Facebook, I posted, I endorsed a councilman like last week, and I had to walk that endorsement back because I found out he got money from the FOP. And like my reparations for that is I'm gonna find somebody to replace him. I got 4 years. I fucked up. I told people to do a thing. I'm responsible for partially part of that. Like, granted, he would have probably been like reelected anyway, but like I'm gonna own my part in this.
And also, like, I like that you're like, and I don't have to like, I can say that I messed up and I don't have to dwell in it. I can still do the work alongside of my fuck up, you know? So I've always appreciated that about you.
I mean, I fuck up all the time because I yell at people a lot.
You're a little angry. You're a little angry.
I am.
I was like, is that Ralikh out here yelling on my walkie-talkie on Beyonce's bandwidth? Are you kidding me?
I'm a little angry, but I think it's because like part of it is that I save all my grace for like community members. So, you know, other people like politicians and such, they catch it because like I don't have to have grace for you. You chose to, like the same way police choose to be police, you chose to be an elected official. So you're gonna get all this work.
Okay.
My grace is for folks who don't have resources.
Okay. Well, I have one last question to ask you. It's a two-pronged question. I'm probably gonna go watch some Ratchet TV after this. You know, it is what it is. The question is one that I ask every single guest. The first part of it is there anything that you feel we didn't cover today or that you were surprised I did not ask you about? And then the second part of that question is, who would you like to see on the show?
Yeah, I don't know. Which, I mean, I'm surprised you didn't actually ask me to like dive into what I think a competent organizer should be.
I'm not commenting because you won't let me get into the bold training. So
that's not me. That is not me. I have nothing to do about that. I am not on the training team. I'm not even on the board anymore. I'm serious.
We've been going at this for like 4 years now. And at this point, I'm like,
let's talk about, let me see your application the next time. Like, seriously, let me see your application. Because that might be why.
No, what the problem is that like, we can't stand this bitch. That's what the problem comes down to. I already know. It's okay. I'm not liked by all.
We'll see.
Who would you like to see on the show?
Probably somebody from Black Visions Collective.
I've heard of them. Who is that?
They the homies. They're the queer Black organization on the ground in Boston. I mean, not Boston, Minneapolis, leading stuff.
I was about to say no.
And they were formed around a similar time as us.
Okay.
And like we have thrown down together a few times.
Is that like Misky and them?
Exactly.
That's all you had to say. Say the names. Like I don't know these niggas' organization. I know people.
Yeah, Misky, Candace, and all them. And so it's really interesting to watch us both grow at the same time and at different rates because of do different things.
Right.
And like kind of, you know, we had similar reasons for starting our own formations and, you know, so I just really appreciate watching their growth and like, you know, we've thrown down, we got trust.
I'm going to text Misky now. It's so funny you say that.
Tell Misky, you know, sending all the love and light and safety on them right now. I appreciate you. And the same, you know, I'm wishing you love, light, safety through whatever, because I need you to stay around.
That has got to be the nicest thing you've said to me in the 5 years we've known each other. Thank you.
That's bullshit, but okay. That's bullshit.
All right, I'll text you about it later. So
I'm just saying, I flew to Boston for you for a counter protest. That is not the nicest thing, but.
Tell Justin I said I love them. Tell Michaela I said big hug, little kiss, little kiss. Okay. Tell Tre I said hello. There was a little white boy y'all used to organize with too. I don't know if y'all lost him or was that BLM New Jersey?
No, that was New Jersey.
So anyway, you were like, yeah, we lost the nigga. Like you were like, it wasn't.
Wait, like we did have a white person when we were Baltimore block, but like we'd have never brought them out of town with us, so it wasn't us.
I think that they did come out of town with you. I think that white person was in my house, like, and I was like, he's with them. It's fine. And maybe it was BLM New Jersey.
No, it couldn't have been because we stayed with a Black friend when we came.
No, I'm talking about. I was just talking about this to Future. Remember, we had an impromptu meeting at my house like the night before, right?
Yeah, and I'm saying
everyone crowded into my like little bedroom, whatever. Like, yeah, no,
remember on the floor. We stayed with my friend Amantala.
Okay.
Who like lived in Boston.
I didn't get y'all a hotel room.
Because we were like, cheap. It's cool.
I'm cheap.
remember me and you were talking budget.
Okay, all right, yeah.
And I was like, it's cool, we got peoples.
No, you know why we was talking budget? Don't play me out here. Don't
No,
play
I
me
was
out
saying
here.
we were talking budget.
Don't
You
play
weren't
me out
being
here.
cheap.
We was talking budget because y'all niggas decided at the last minute to come. Them tickets was like $800 round trip.
Yes, it was also, what happened then?
And then you and I agreed to end up sharing the cost because I was like,
yeah, because I was trying to raise money because that was when Dutchie was pregnant, remember?
right.
So like I was concerned because I thought, there was a whole bunch of stuff going on at that time.
I was like, yo, I said, but in hindsight, I could see how it was like a little bit late. I was like, we need y'all. And then y'all couldn't really make the decision until like 2 days before. But I'm glad you came. I'm glad the whole squad came because it really, like, you were really an anchor. And I will say that to you. That's the only nice thing I got for you. Okay. I love you. And I hope that you have a good evening. Thank you for being my guest on the full set.
No problem.
And I hope you have a good night.
You too.
All right. Peace, y'all.